Hi there, and welcome to Los Angeles. I stayed near LAX last night because, of course I did, so I had a bit of a drive to get to Los Angeles Union Station this morning, which is where my Amtrak Coast Starlight service was leaving from. The Uber ride took around 40 minutes and cost $45. Los Angeles Union Station is known to be the last great rail station built in the US, finished in 1939, before the long and steady decline of rail ridership in the US began. The station is a mix of Spanish colonial revival, Art Deco, and Mission revival, and frankly couldn't be more early 20th century California if it tried. Before we head inside and have a look around, let me welcome any of you that might be new to the channel. My name is Kevin. I'm here to give you a self-funded and honest look at some of the best, and some of the not so best, airlines and hotels and trains in the world, which I've been bringing to you full-time for the past 4 years. Check out my hundreds of videos, scan the QR code, or click the link in the description to learn more about how I do things. First though, let's head inside. The station was designed by the father and son team of John and Donald Parkinson, who are also the designers of Los Angeles City Hall and a number of other buildings in the region. Numerous areas of the station have been restored over the past 10 years in stages, most notably the main hall ceiling, which was completed in 2022. Nowadays, the station, with its 110 daily passengers, is the 13th busiest in the country and the 5th busiest for Amtrak. Amtrak has 5 primary services which start or end in Los Angeles. First, the only shorter distance ride is the Surfliner, which goes up and down the California coast. For the long distance sleeper services, there are 4 choices. The Sunset Limited connects LA to New Orleans. The Southwest Chief and Texas Eagle both connect LA with Chicago, the latter passing through Texas. Then we have the service that I'm taking today, the Coast Starlight, which runs up the west coast to Seattle. If you follow the channel, you may be rightfully thinking, why didn't you just take one of the services from Chicago, where you just were, to either here or San Francisco? Well, that was originally the plan. I was considering the Southwest Chief to LA or the California Zephyr to just outside of San Francisco. The reason I didn't was honestly a combination of price and simply not knowing if it was an experience that I would enjoy. For a roomette, the same type of room that I'll have today, those 2 trains were each 2 nights long and range from $950 to $1,400. 3 days and 2 nights is a long time to spend on any mode of transport, but especially if you're not sure how you're going to feel about it for over $1,000. Luckily, there are a couple of fantastic day trips throughout Amtrak's system, and that is why I settled on booking a roomette from LA to San Francisco. If I loved it, there are plenty of opportunities to do longer services in the future. In the end, let's just say I'm happy with my choice. Any of the sleeper accommodations include access to the Los Angeles County State Penitentiary. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say penitentiary? I meant the Amtrak First Class Metropolitan Lounge, which is just disguised as a jail, surely to prevent Priority Pass cardholders from trying to enter. The lounge is lounge-like. If you visited an American Airlines Admiral Club in the 90s, you've got a pretty good idea already. There were packaged snacks available, and we were given a copy of the menus for on board, though they were not actually the same as the menus that we actually had on board, so helpful. There was also a briefing about the journey, led by staff in the lounge, and with that briefing, a very odd service trend began. I won't say everyone, but definitely a majority of Amtrak staff that I encountered had a very, very odd vibe. They were all just salty and constantly referring to the good old days and how Amtrak used to be better, etc., etc. Sometimes it was subtle, and sometimes it was a lecture about how things used to be, or should be, or would be, or whatever. It was just very off-putting, especially when in the lounge, lots of the people are excited to get on board and begin their journey, which they've paid thousands of dollars for. Like, just shut up. Once advance boarding was called, we were escorted to the boarding track. There were buggies available if you'd like. They made it sound like you'd have to walk to Las Vegas. In reality, it was just a 5-minute walk. We watched a few trains pass through, the tail end of a police chase, some tumbleweeds go by, just normal weekday morning LA stuff. There are 4 primary categories of accommodation on the train. Coach, which is just a seat. Then roomettes, which I had, are a private space that can accommodate up to 2 people in its glamorous 23 square feet of space. Then you have bedrooms, which are larger and have their own ensuite bathrooms. Finally, the largest are the family bedrooms, which are cool because they span the width of the train, so you always get the best view. But, oddly enough, they do not have their own ensuite bathrooms. Here's our view liner coming into the station now. Looking all extra tall and awkward. For sleeper services, Amtrak has 2 primary types of trains. The view liners that you see here run throughout the country and are double-decker with accommodations on both levels. The other choice, the superliners, are single-level and only run east of Chicago. There is one thing that is a bit stressful leading up to when you're stepping on board, especially for a trip like this one where most of the good views are to one side of the train. And that's that your room or roomette will be randomly assigned to you when you book. From what I've read, you could also call after making your reservation and request a specific room or level. But whether or not you'd be accommodated is not a sure thing. The problem, though, is that you have no idea which direction, so to speak, the train is oriented until you're getting on board. So assuming that room 3 is on the left side of the train is not a good assumption to make. When I made my booking, I was assigned car 1403, room 3. So, at least I knew I was on the upper level, which I was happy about. But only once I stepped on board did I know that I was actually on the good side. And let me tell you, people that were not on the good side were not happy. As far as an overnight train goes, these roomettes do have a lot of features that I do genuinely enjoy. I like the central aisle layout. The seats themselves are comfortable and plenty wide. For one person or one person and a child, I think it's plenty of room. It's when you add that second adult that I think some people might find it tight. It's not that the beds are too small or that the full footprint of the room is too small. It's that there's just literally nowhere to store your carry-on except just in the floor space. My backpack was able to barely fit under the seat. My rolling bag, no way. You can check bags in, and there are also luggage storage areas on board for carry-ons. But if you are like me, and you like to keep your things with you, this is just the reality. Each seat has an outlet and a reading light, and there are semi-useful climate controls in each room. Note that there is no Wi-Fi. There are 2 things that I don't love about the rooms and the experience in general, but only one of them is a deal breaker for me, and that is not having a lock on the door. You can lock your door from the inside, that's not a problem. With the curtains closed, you'll have total privacy. But when you leave your room, you need to lock it with prayers because there's no other way. I dealt with this by carrying a sling around with me on the train for the day trip. But if this was 2 or 3 nights and I wanted to spend a lot of time in the observation car and whatnot, I simply wouldn't be comfortable leaving everything else behind. That's just me. You've seen on my channel both European and Japanese sleeper trains have ways to lock your doors. I mean, this isn't revolutionary. Why can't we just have this in the US, where arguably it's needed more than those other places? It's just, I don't get it. We left the station a few minutes behind schedule and headed for our first stop in Glendale. Amtrak doesn't actually go to San Francisco, but rather to Emeryville. If you book to San Francisco, you'll have a bus connection that will be included. Between LA and Emeryville, there are 11 stops on the 470-mile or 756-kilometer ride. The full Coast Starlight journey is around 35 hours, covering 1,377 miles or 2,216 kilometers. Soon after getting settled in, the car attendant will come around and take reservation times for any of the meals that are included with your room on that day. My ride today included lunch and dinner, which both require reservations. You can also order and have the food brought to your room if you prefer that. For both lunch and dinner, I chose the earliest times simply in the hope that there would be less people dining at those times. After leaving LA, the views get progressively more and more interesting as you go, and you'll get your first views of the Pacific near Ventura. Amtrak, a combination of America and track, was formed in 1971 to consolidate multiple passenger rail services into a single system. On average, they have around 20 million passengers per year, and are frankly in this perpetual state of will it survive or won't it survive? Their fastest trains are along the Northeast Corridor, and the rest of the service in the country are regional or sleeper services. If you're enjoying the video and would like to support the channel, there are many ways that you could do so. A quick like on the video and subscribe helps videos with the algorithm. You could join my YouTube channel memberships to get early access to some videos and access all of my community posts. Or you could check out my Patreon where I post the most and can also help you out with travel related questions. Whatever you do, thanks for doing it. If you leave on time, having an early lunch will ensure that you can be back in your room or in the observation car for the most beautiful coastal views, which will start around Santa Barbara. Here's the second piece of the whole experience that I'm not a fan of, but it's doable. Unless you're traveling as a group of 4, you will be just about guaranteed to be sat with other people during meal services. I lucked out and ended up sharing both of my meals with the same couple, who just by chance flew in from Chicago the day prior as well, and were heading up to Seattle. Here's the menu for all of the meal services. For sleeper services, everything is included. If you're in coach, lunch is $25 and dinner is $45. Lunch is a main dish and a dessert, and dinner is the same plus an appetizer. Both meals include soft drinks. At dinner, 1 alcoholic drink is included. Breakfast is also available but doesn't require reservations. I had the grilled patty melt, which came with kettle chips, along with the white chocolate blueberry cobbler cheesecake for dessert. There are healthy, adjacent options available for each meal, but it's not a cornucopia of fresh, vibrant food. It is all tasty though, if not a bit heavy. The patty melt, I'd give a 7.7 out of 10, and the cheesecake, 6 out of 10. The latter tasted a bit artificial. After lunch, I enjoyed the coastal views and had a peek at the observation cars, which are first come, first serve. Under the observation car is a snack car where anyone can buy snacks. But note, It did feel like the snack car was on break more than it was actually operating. Each time they closed down throughout the day, there was this grandiose announcement about the impending doom. If I were you, I would bring your own snacks with you, especially if you're traveling in coach. After passing Guadalupe, the train turns inland and will soon have its first extended stop in San Luis Obispo, which lasts for around 10 or 15 minutes. Stay close. The trains are fully non-smoking, so this would be your first smoke break. I wanted to see what the bed situation would have been like, so I set them up myself. My attendant certainly could have done it, but considering he was one of the saltier ones, I chose to avoid the included eye roll, considering I was just on a day trip. Both the lower and the upper berths are 6.5 feet or 2 meters long. though the lower berth is quite a bit wider and has more headroom. The lower berth is 67 centimeters or 26.5 inches wide, and the upper is 53 centimeters or 21 inches wide. So, in loose aircraft terms, the upper berth is a decent business class bed widthwise, and the bottom is a decent first class bed widthwise. There are restrooms on both the upper and lower level, but the showers are below, which towels are provided for. As for the restrooms themselves, don't be surprised if your attendant asks you, over the intercom, to take care of the bathrooms as if you're a 9-year-old child who is destined to completely trash them.
At this time, we are approximately 10 minutes out of Paso Robles. In Paso Robles is your stop now.
Once you turn inland, you're in the fertile Central Valley and begin to see some vineyards and pass through Salinas Valley, which is well known as the salad bowl of the world. I actually ended up getting off the train in San Jose. The train is meant to arrive in Emeryville at 9:31 p.m. I had a 1:30 in the morning flight scheduled from San Francisco, which would have been easy enough to catch. But a couple of weeks before my flight, American retimed it to 11:59 p.m. So getting off in San Jose around an hour earlier than Emeryville gave me peace of mind to make it on time. On the way, we passed through some unexpected oil fields, I think. Someone correct me, please. Then it was on to dinner time. All dressed up with a tablecloth, I started with the mixed green salad with baby brie. Very basic but fresh, 7.5 out of 10. For the main, I had the Amtrak signature flat iron steak served with rustic mashed potatoes, mixed vegetables, and a port wine sauce. The vegetables were gross, but the potatoes and the steak were decent for being on a train. Overall, I guess like a 6 or 7 out of 10. For dessert, the chocolate spoon cake with chocolate ganache pudding. I'm not really sure that this is a spoon cake, besides the fact that it's a cake served with a spoon, but it was surprisingly good, 8.6 out of 10. After that, I headed back to my room and just enjoyed the sunset before pulling into San Jose around 2 hours after dinner. In general, I did really enjoy the trip as a day trip, and would seriously consider doing other day trips in a Roomette. The scenery was beautiful, the accommodation was comfortable, and the food was decent. But multi-night overnights? I'm not too sure about that one. It's kinda like being on a cruise, but imagine you only had access to your ocean view cabin and one restaurant. I can understand why some love it as an option to see the country, but if that was my goal, I would much rather rent a car and drive with the freedom to stop and explore every place along the way. That's just me. So I really do hope that you enjoyed this trip report today. If you did, please be sure to click the like button and subscribe for 2 new videos each week. I'll see you next time on that flight on American to Cabo via Dallas in first and business. As always, thanks for watching until the end.